All right, well, this is obviously a great win for us. This is a tough place to play against a good team. Certainly proud of the way our guys competed in the game. And you say you got to always play the next play. We certainly shot ourselves in the foot 3 times in a row in the red zone where we threw an interception and kicked 2 field goals. In a critical time in the game where we really could have sort of broke the game open early on. Defensively we played decent at times, but at times we gave them plays that we shouldn't have. Let the quarterback scramble around a little bit too much in the game and didn't really finish the game with class in terms of being able to take the air out of it. Too many penalties. 11 penalties on the day. I think special teams was huge in this game. We had over 300 yards in returns. And the way I do math on that, with you score touchdowns or not, every 100 yards you have in field position is worth 6 points. So that was huge in terms of the field position. It was huge in our ability to turn the field around and probably score points. But I felt like we did a lot of good things in the game today, and we obviously have things that we need to work on. We don't really have anybody significantly injured. Will Reichert will still be day-to-day as we go through and see how he feels next week, and Chris Owens should be able to start practicing a little bit more, but we'll just have to see how those guys go right now. But I was really proud of the way our team competed in the game. They took the ball right down and scored first drive of the game, and the players didn't reel, the players didn't get frustrated. They just made the adjustments that we need to make and played better right through the rest of the half. So a lot of good things in the game. Tough place to play. It's a great win for us, especially in our division.
Coach, did you see anything during the bye week that led you to believe you would have a big day with returns?
Look, people don't kick the ball to us very much. All right, so we went through 6 games last year at the end of the season where we got 1 ball kicked to us that we could return on kickoff return. They got to the point where they never would kick the ball to Waddle. Now these guys have a great punter, and everybody asked me about a great punter, and my comment was, great punter is good for us because we'll get some return balls, and we got some. So he kicked it far, and we returned it far. So that's the way it goes.
What happened at the end of the game with Devontae Smith?
Basically he got hit, punched, and he retaliated. So we'll have to wait for the conference office and see what his status is. So it was offsetting fouls. Obviously their players shouldn't have punched him, but he also should have had the discipline not to hit him back, because that's a foul. We would have got a 15-yard penalty, and that would have basically ended the game. We also got another penalty for pushing a foul at the end of the game, which we're trying to take the air out of the ball so the other team can't get the ball back. Can't get penalties. With the shot clock run out, just didn't finish the game like you need to finish the game. You don't want to give good teams the ball back. You want to try to win the game on offense, take the air out of it. Don't give them extra possessions.
What did you think of your defense's ability to affect the quarterback today?
We were better today until the end. I think we got a little bit tired, got out of our rush lanes a little bit. This guy's a good athlete. He took off running a couple times for a couple big plays, which we have to do a better job of that. Our plan was to make this guy throw the ball from the pocket. That's what we wanted to do. We did not want him to do what he did last year, and he didn't for a long time, but then he did at the end of the game.
What's your biggest takeaway with the win today?
I'm sorry?
What's your biggest takeaway from this win today?
Well, I sort of look at all the good things we did and try to build on those things. And I think when you're a coach, you're a critic to some degree in terms of looking at the things that you need to improve on and get better. And if players are really great competitors and want to be really good, they want you to do that. They want you to tell them what they need to do to try to get better and what we need to do to try to get better. So the one thing that you have to remember about players is there's nobody that wants to do well more than they do. Fans have a tough time understanding that sometimes. I never have a tough time as coaches, but sometimes coaches do.
Were you encouraged with what you saw from the running game?
I'm sorry?
Were you encouraged with what you saw from the running game, especially Najee Harris?
Well, I thought we did a good job for the most part, created balance, and we were able to run the ball at the end of the game when we needed to, which I think was a real positive.
There was a play
earlier in the game where Jerry and Tua didn't really seem to be on the same page down in the red zone. They kind of had words after, but then Jerry had a couple big catches later in the game. Just where do you think that connection is at this point between those two players?
Oh, it's great. Sometimes, we read routes sometimes based on coverages or how people are playing, and you're counting on both guys sort of seeing the same thing, and that doesn't always, happen exactly that way. But those two guys work together well. I think we have great chemistry, with all of our skilled players on offense with the quarterback. He does a really good job of leading and being positive and encouraging, those players. And I think he appreciates the fact that they all make a lot of great plays.
From what you saw, and I know you don't get to watch offensive line closely, but how do you think Landon played?
Well, it'd be hard for me to say, but I never heard a lot of negatives, on the headset about what he was doing. We had one negative play where he pulled and, he got tripped up and fell down. That's about the only thing that I heard, so I'm assuming that he did pretty well.
Nick, you mentioned the return game being big for you guys, but you also were able to keep them from starting deep. They were starting inside their own 30 most of the day. I guess how big of that field position difference was it for you today?
Well, I think it was huge. Obviously, we blocked a punt, scored on special teams, and changed field position. And I think the fact that even when we didn't score, we moved the ball and kept the ball some today, so we changed field position from that standpoint. And, that was probably really good for us defensively.
You've talked about controlling the game over the last couple of weeks. How did you feel you did with that today? It seemed like there were a couple longer drives.
I don't really understand the question.
Like being able to control the clock and sustain drives a little longer.
Look, man, I want to score. I tried to explain that to you guys. All right, so if we score fast, which we scored fast a couple times a day, I'm okay with that. It still counts. And I also said that we are not going to change the way we play offense because of some other part of our game. All right, so, I was glad that we were able to run the ball more effectively today, and hopefully we'll be able to create that balance in the future. But we're not trying to change the way that we play.
Was Terrell more active today, do you think, Terrell Lewis? He seemed to have a good motor today.
Well, his first game, he's really been able to practice and play. He practiced very sparingly before we played Ole Miss. He played, about half the time in the game, maybe not even that. But because he was able to practice a little bit more, I think he was, more active in the game today, probably more confident, probably more explosive because he was healthier.
What were the adjustments made after that first possession when they drove down and scored? What you guys do?
They put the formation in the boundary. They were running the ball a little bit out of some formations that we thought might be throwing formations, and so we just had to make some adjustments to formation in the boundary. Made a couple of mental errors on the adjustments, which left people open. So, once our players settled into understanding what they were doing, then we at least took those things away. That they still throw and catch and a quarterback run a few times, yes. But even the 2 minutes before the half, we get 2 roughing the quarterback penalties, which is 30 yards of field position. So they end up getting a field goal out of it. So you just got to play smarter when it comes to those types of penalties, man. You can't give good people extra opportunities.
Nick Tua became the school's all-time touchdown pass leader past A.J. McCarron. What does that milestone mean, if anything?
Well, it means he's had a great career, to this point. And we certainly appreciate his competitive spirit, the way he prepares for games, his leadership, the way he practices, his ability to, help us score points on offense. It's very instinctive. So it means a lot from all that standpoint, but it also doesn't mean much when it comes to what are you going to do in the future. So, and I think he has an opportunity based on the kind of offensive team we have to have great production if he can continue to just stay focused, on, what we want to do. This is where, this very seat is where rat poison was born. All right, so I remember that 2 years ago. All right, and when I hear things in the media about whether guys are first-round draft picks and they're setting great records and all that type of thing, that's not really what I like for players to be focusing on right now. You know, you got to focus on what are you doing right now, not what's going to happen in the future, not really what happened in the past, but what can I learn from what's happened in the past? How can I affect what's going on right now? Because that's what's going to affect the future in a positive way. So that's how we want our players to think, regardless of how difficult you all make it for us sometimes with some of our players.
All right, Coach, thank you.
All right? Thank you. But I appreciate it.
Appreciate you.